Shauna Fields stood at her boss's desk at 6:30 a.m. and looked out the window. She performed this ritual every day after she started her specialty imported coffee and made a schedule of meetings and necessary memos for her boss, Tate Morgan. He was the CEO of the corporation founded by his father, Winston Morgan. His mother was chairman of the board, and his sister still had a paying job as a public relations manager, but she hadn't been active since her husband Alan Brown had run for Senate a few years ago. She stared out the window, sipping her Folgers coffee, until she saw his silver Jaguar pull into the parking lot, which was between 6:30 and 7 each morning. She knew his schedule so precisely that he would wake up at 5 and be on his treadmill by 5:15, where he would watch the news while going for a half-hour jog. It was important to her to wait for him to arrive so she could pour a fresh cup of coffee and make sure it was hot and waiting for him. She also set out a carafe of ice water and a Kind bar. They were such small, unnecessary things, but she was willing to do anything for him. Her personal mantra said, "Go the extra mile," but especially for him. She saw him pull up in front of the house and went to pour coffee. When he walked through the door, she was sitting at her desk. She looked up from her tablet and admired her favorite part of the day. It was the moment he walked in. She watched the friendly, tall, broad-shouldered, blonde-haired man who walked in as if he were the master of the room. He always wore a clean, expensive suit, was always clean-shaven, and never unshaven. His hair was cut short and styled in a conservative side parting. She admired his rhythmic gait and large hands as he opened the door, carrying his briefcase and slinging his coat over his arm. He smiled when he saw her, and she could have sworn his blue eyes sparkled. "Good morning, Mr. Morgan." "Good morning, Shauna," he replied. "How is my favorite assistant doing?" "Fine, sir. Your calendar is synchronized and ready for viewing. You have 4 appointments scheduled for today, and the notes are on your desk." "Thank you. I expect a call from my wife this morning. You can interrupt any meeting I'm in when she calls. She flew to Washington last night to console my idiot sister after last month's fiasco. Apparently, my bastard son-in-law filed for divorce." "Oh no, I was hoping they'd work things out," she said. "He's fine, but my sister is in a complete state of distress. She feels like her chance to be First Lady was snatched away from her. My wife sympathizes with her and has gone to play grief counselor." "I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan. I know how much Carly means to you. It must be hard for her to lose Senator Brown." "She did it to herself. That shit wasn't as well hidden as they thought. I warned her, but what do I know? I'm only her brother," he said. Sen. Alan Brown was on the debate stage for the Democratic presidential nomination when his wife's affair with her aide became public. The fallout was devastating at first, but his PR team worked well, and his poll numbers actually improved. The sympathy of his supporters should have gotten him the Democratic nomination. He continued, "Carly has always gotten things her way. She has such a strong charisma that people just bend to her will. I think the other woman's husband didn't bend to her will. We're all paying the price for that. The press hasn't called in a long time, but I think this might be a reason to call. Do you want me to prepare a statement, or do you have no comment?" she asked. "No, I'm staying as far away from her situation as possible right now. If they call, tell them no comment. We don't need the company dragged into her personal problems. My mother is going to be furious as it is." That morning, Tate's wife Bella was having coffee with his sister. Carly was as disheveled as Bella had ever seen her, and it bothered her. Bella had always admired this beautiful, elegant woman, but that morning her look was a mess. Until the recent scandal, Carly had never appeared in front of guests without perfectly styled hair, carefully applied makeup, and stylish and beautiful clothes. She woke up that morning without showering, brushing her hair or teeth. "Bella, I'm going to leave quietly. I'm going to stay as far away from the press as possible. I don't want to hurt Alan's chances of becoming president any more than I already have. His campaign manager thinks divorcing me will help him," Carly said. "I think it's bullshit that he got away with it. He's done it with her and a lot of others," Bella said. "I know, but he'll do a lot of good for the country. He should have a chance. I hope my foolishness won't hurt him. I shouldn't have brought that new girl. She was so beautiful. I just had to have her." Maybe after he leaves office, we can find each other again. Regardless of our problems, we still love each other, and I haven't done anything that he wouldn't approve of or do himself. It's just terrible optics that I've been caught like this. Carly, take a shower while I get cleaned up. We need to get you back on your feet. Why don't we go somewhere and get away from all this? Okay, we can leave anytime. I have a company plane here. Bella had been doing this with Carly and sometimes Alan since she married Tate 5 years ago. Mr. Morgan, your wife is on line 1, Shauna said into the intercom. Tate picked up the phone and said, Hi, honey. How is she? She's in terrible shape. You should have seen her when I arrived. The house was a mess and she was drunk out of her mind. I could barely get her into bed. Well, take care of her and keep her sober. My mother doesn't need any unnecessary worry about what she's done. I will. Babe, I think I need to take her out of Washington for a few days. I'm going to take her to Napa Valley and visit a couple wineries. I need to take her mind off Alan and show her some beautiful scenery. So, did you manage to keep her sober? Oh, Tate, don't be like that. She needs to de-stress. I'll take care of her. I'll take her to my favorite vineyard. There's a cottage there that we like. Just keep her out of trouble and keep your head down. She doesn't want any unnecessary trouble. I'll make sure she stays busy in her room. Love you, bye. Later that day, they saw the press waiting for Carly, wanting a comment on the serving of the divorce papers. I hate the press, Carly said. Just say no comment, and we squeeze through them to the car. She's waiting there. They walked past the reporters and made their way to the car without stopping. One of the reporters asked the other, Who was that woman with her? Isn't that the personal assistant from the video? Could it be the other lover? Wow. The next morning, Tate was on the treadmill watching MSNBC when he saw the headline of the article. His wife was holding Carly's hand as she boarded a private jet. The anchor said, Carly Brown, who has been served with divorce papers, left Washington accompanied by an unidentified woman. It wasn't the woman from the infamous video. Could this be the new lover? They then spent 5 minutes discussing how much this story has hurt Alan Brown's bid for the Democratic presidential nomination. Incredibly, he was still leading in the polls and had more delegates than his opponent. Tate threw the remote at the TV and headed for the shower. So much for keeping a low profile, he thought. As he pulled into the parking lot of his office, he saw Shauna waiting for him in the window. He smiled and was pleased to see her at her post, waiting for him every morning as usual. He couldn't help but think of her beauty and the way she glowed every morning when he walked into the office and saw her at her desk. It was a stark contrast to the sad woman who stood in the window waiting for him. He wondered what was causing her to be so sad. He paid her well, she was the best in the business, and she had a wonderful little boy who had just turned 5. He thought it might be man trouble, but she never talked about the boy's father or mentioned dating. At work, she behaved professionally, and they didn't socialize outside of work events and parties. He recalled an occasion when he had a dinner party for his company's executives and board members. She had been invited as well, and, in his opinion, had behaved professionally. However, Bella had warned him that Shauna was making eyes at him. At that moment, he chuckled that it was his wife's jealousy of a younger beauty. As he opened the glass door to her outer office, he saw her look up from her work and smile. Good morning, Mr. Morgan. Good morning, Shauna. If anyone from the press calls today, put them through. I need to clear them up today. It's not true, is it? She asked. Rumors about my wife and sister? No. The idiots in the press just don't know their sisters-in-law. Phew. Thank God. Later that morning, his personal cell phone rang, and he answered it for his mother. Yes, Mom, I'm aware of it, Tate said. The press had been calling all morning demanding comment on it. I told the reporters they're just sisters-in-law, so hopefully it'll all work out. Tate, you have to make her stay out of sight. Make her hole up in her room somewhere and let the heat die down. I agree, Mom. I told Carly the same thing and left another message for Bella to keep her in the house at all times. No more publicity. Thank you, son. Keep me posted. Mrs. Morgan, it's so nice to see you again. No Mr. Morgan this time? Said the clerk at the front desk. This was the vineyard's regular tasting room. There were 6 racks of various wines arranged like a library, and 4-foot shelves along the outside walls with the rest of the winery's selection. In the center of the room was a horseshoe-shaped bar where tastings were held, and guests could order wine by the glass. The small cottage-style building was surrounded by a deck where tables and chairs were set up for guests to enjoy a bottle of wine with appetizers while admiring the view of the vineyard and hills in the background. At the back of the vineyard, about 150 yards from the main buildings, was an old service road. No, I'm here with my sister-in-law. Please don't make any noise. We don't need anyone to know we're here. Of course, ma'am. I'm sorry the cottages are booked, but we do have an apartment. This is the largest one, with a balcony overlooking the vineyard and double beds. Here's the key. It's room 3. Bella grinned and replied, "Thank you. It's perfect." She was glad to be in one of her favorite places in the world. With Tate's wealth, they could go anywhere, but she loved wine country. The vineyard had 3 small apartments and 2 cottages that they rented out as bed and breakfasts. Usually, she and Tate rented the cottage, but she and Carly were lucky enough to get either room on short notice. It would be just enough for her needs. They spread their stuff out on the bed they weren't going to use and started making out. This is going to be a great week, my favorite. Just what I need. Carly, let me run out and get some things you need for the room. You're too high profile right now to make unnecessary forays into the public eye. I know. Tate wrote a message. Mom's furious. She opened the door to the balcony and admired the beauty of the vineyard and the hills beyond. This is my favorite place in the world to relax, Bella said. Bella kissed her as she stood on the large covered balcony, and they began to kiss and feel each other. Bella pulled away, kissed her again, and left to go to the store. The paparazzi photographer couldn't believe his luck. He got word that a private jet was landing at the Sonoma County Airport with Carly Brown and an unknown woman on board. He rushed to the airport and managed to get ahead of them. He watched and took several photographs as they rented a car and loaded into it. He followed them to the Vineyard Hotel and looked around while they checked in. He spotted a building with apartments, 2 on the second floor and 1 on the top floor with a balcony. Looking around, he saw a service road behind rows of vines. The vines would serve him well as cover to try to get some shots. He was lucky. Not only did they get the only room with a balcony, they were also making out while standing on it. Thank God for telescopic lenses, he thought. This picture will ensure my kid goes to college. The next morning, Shauna was drinking coffee when her mother walked into the kitchen. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, baby. Mickey's awake, but he's lying in bed with a book. I know, I've seen it. I wish he would sleep later, but at least he stays in his room. He gets up early like his mom, but takes long naps in the afternoon like his grandma. Yes, he's a great kid. I'm lucky to have him. I don't know where I'd be now if it weren't for him. Everyone has their own destiny. He was yours. You needed him to stop your wildness. I couldn't have gotten that from you, of course. I know, Mother. I thank God every day that I straightened up and was able to get a job with Mr. Morgan. Me too. Smiling, Shauna put the cup in the sink and went to work. After buying the house, she had moved her mother in to take care of Mickey. Before that, she had lived in a small apartment, and her mother drove across town every day to look after Mickey. She always left the house at 4:45 a.m. and made it to the office by 5. She didn't have to start work before 7 like Tate wanted her to, but she knew that if he got up at 5, she had to be ready in case he needed her. There were a few times when he needed to make a reservation or cancel a meeting, and she was glad he didn't have to wait for her to get on with his day. As she drove to the office, a news station came on the radio. The top story was a picture of Bella and Carly kissing. "Oh my God!" she shrieked, hitting the brakes. She was so engrossed in the radio that she almost ran a red light. She looked at the time and saw that it was already 4:50. She knew Tate wasn't awake yet, but as soon as he saw the news, he'd need her to do something. She pulled over to the curb and typed the news text into her phone. Oh, shit, she thought when she saw the picture. She quickly made the decision to drive to Tate's house instead of the office. She may have been in love with her married boss and could never do that, but she could help him through the pain he was going through. Tate was making a cup of coffee when his doorbell rang. Who the hell is calling me at 5 in the morning? He thought. Opening the door, he saw it was Shauna. Hey, Shauna. I know I'm the cool boss and all, but isn't it a little early for a visit? Tate, turn on the news! She yelled frantically, running into him. He was more surprised by her calling him Tate than by her urgency. She'd never done that before. And he liked it. I heard it on the way to work. I can't believe it's true, she said. She knew he hadn't seen the news yet because he didn't get up on the treadmill until 5:15. He followed her into his room and saw that she had turned on Fox News. Fox, Shauna? He asked. She knew he was watching MSNBC. Then he saw a picture. The picture showed Carly and Bella kissing, Bella's hand resting on Carly's chest. The caption read, Carly Brown caught in love nest with sister-in-law. He collapsed into a chair and buried his head in his hands. Shauna knelt down beside him and put her hand on his shoulder. Maybe it was fake or something? Maybe there's an explanation? She asked. As a tear ran down his cheek, he lifted his head and screamed, God damn bitch! He got up and ran upstairs. Shauna followed him and asked, What are you going to do, Mr. Morgan? Oh, I'm Mr. Morgan again, am I? He joked, starting to pack his bag. She blushed and replied, Sorry about that. I panicked. It won't happen again. Don't worry, Tate's fine, he said. I'm going in there and I'm going to stop their shit, no matter what they do. Shauna, cancel all business for the rest of the week. I need to go to Napa. Buy me a ticket on the first available flight. On my way, sir. Shauna? He asked softly. Sir? Thank you for being here. I'm always where you need me, sir. She turned and left the room to get her tablet from her car and check his flight schedule. Does she always drive to work at this hour? He thought. How did I never notice it before? Good morning, my favorite. Good morning, Carly, Bella said. Are you hungry? I'm hungry. It's 10 o'clock, but we can still have breakfast until 10:30. They have a nice selection of fresh fruit, and they'll make us a locally sourced omelet. Sounds good. Let's have breakfast and come back here for dessert. Carly picked up her cell phone, and Bella took it from her. No cell phones, no televisions. We're here to relax, and you don't have to worry about the divorce news. You're right. Let's take a quick shower and go downstairs. No games. We need to be quick so we have time for breakfast. Spoils the mood. Tate's flight landed in California at 10 a.m. local time. His rental car was already waiting for him, but the drive to the vineyard took an hour. He pulled up to the winery pension where the ladies were staying a little after 11:30. The ladies had just returned to their room. He recognized the owner standing at the bar and said, Good morning, George. Good morning, Mr. Morgan. You just missed them. They finished their breakfast and went back to the room. Okay, do you have another room key? Sure, Marla will get it for you. He then asked his wife to give Tate a key to his wife and sister's room. She smiled as she handed him the key and said, Glad to see you were able to come after all, Mr. Morgan. Enjoy your vacation. He nodded and left. After reflecting on the flight, he calmed down and hoped it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it's just a bad picture that looks worse than it really is, he thought. Tate put the old-fashioned key in the lock and turned the knob. He saw his sister and his wife. He snapped a picture of her on his cell phone and walked into the room. You goddamn bitch! He yelled. The ladies jumped up and Bella screamed, Tate! What are you doing here? Breaking up a marriage. I sure as hell can't believe you're doing this with my sister. Tate, you don't understand, Carly said. Screw you, Carly. Don't you ever talk to me again. You assholes got caught. You're all over the damn news again. I was hoping it was fake or innocent, but I guess not. Tate, baby, I love you. It was... Just stop it, Bella. Keep that cliché bullshit to yourself. There's no excuses, it's cheating. It's over. No. Tate, listen. It's not her fault. Shut up, Carly. I hope you're happy. You left behind another marriage. Mother's going to have a stroke. He turned and left them crying in the room. As he approached the front desk, the owner said, I just saw this on the news, Mr. Morgan. I'm very sorry about that. Fortunately, there's no press outside yet, but I'm expecting them. It doesn't matter, George. I'm not staying, he said, tossing the key on the table. They'll sort out their own mess. He got into the rental car and called his life-saving friend, Shauna. Shauna, I stopped by to see them. It's true, they've been dealing with it. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm heading back to the Sonoma County Airport. Find me a flight home as soon as possible. I already am, sir. The press has been calling nonstop and your mother is here. Is she there? Yes. Jesus, this place must be on fire. Almost, sir. She's got people running all over the place. She's upset and taking her anger out on everyone around her. She's not calling you because I told her you were in the air. Well, when the chairman is furious, shit rolls downhill fast. She'll soon realize I'm no longer in the air and I'll call her now. Bring me the ticket, please. It's all set. I did it while we were talking. Your flight leaves at 2 o'clock local time. Thank you. I'd be lost without you, Shauna. She blushed at his praise and replied, Thank you. I walked in on them, Mom. That bitch, my sister, and my wife were having fun together. I will destroy her, Tate. How could she do this to her family? To you? I don't know, but now she's cut off from me. I'm seriously considering firing her from her ceremonial position in the company. That's fine with me, son. She's a PR nightmare right now. You have plenty of reasons to fire her. Thank God Dad isn't alive to see what she's become. She must have an addiction or something. It just doesn't make sense. What about Bella? She's already in the past. I can't stay with a cheater. I'm truly sorry. At least you don't have children yet. I know it would be a clean break. The prenuptial agreement is clear and straightforward. Did she give you any explanation? I didn't stick around. I couldn't be there. I almost threw up when I saw them. It was horrible. Okay. Have a safe flight. I'll keep my defenses up here. Ha! Shauna has this place running like a Ferrari engine. You won't be needed, I assure you. He said this to try and save his men from her wrath. She's something special. You're lucky to have her. Don't I know it? All right, Mom, I'll be in touch. What should I do, Carly? Asked Bella. Fight. You're going to fight. Things are different with Alan and me. I don't want to cost him the election. You don't have that problem. He won't return my calls. I need to go home. We'll go back, but you have to have a plan. You don't want to run away at the drop of a hat. I can't believe we got caught. I thought this place was completely secluded. Why was I so stupid to kiss you? Why was I so stupid to get involved with you in the first place? Stop it, Carly shouted. You're not stupid. You have needs that your husband can't fulfill. He needs to realize that you need what a woman can give you, just like he, as a man, can give you. He will come to his senses. He loves you. He just needs to calm down. God, I hope you're right. I can't lose him. I love him so much. You should dump as much as you can on me. I'm already persona non grata in my family. It can't hurt for me to take all the blame. Listen to yourself. This is your fault. You seduced me years ago. I should never have gotten involved with you. Oh, please. You'd better hope he doesn't find out about Alan, or you don't stand a chance. With me, at least you'll be able to say it wasn't a guy. God, I hope I can make this right, Bella said, realizing the chances were slim. Tate walked into his empty house and threw his bags on the floor. He had ignored his wife's calls and texts up until this point and decided to finally call her back. Tate, baby, listen. I'm on my way home now. We need to talk and work things out. I love you. Our marriage can't be over. Don't come home, Bella. I need a couple days to calm down. I'll call you back on Sunday and set up a time when we can meet and talk. Okay, I'll get a room at the Hyatt Hotel and wait for your call. Tate, please believe that I love you with all my heart. Never mind. I'm giving you one chance to explain yourself. If you lie to me, it's over between us. Believe me, I've learned more than you think. He had learned nothing. He hoped that by saying this, he would force her to be truthful. He needed to know why she'd done this to him. I swear I'll tell you everything. I love you, Tate. I'm sorry I hurt you. We'll see. He hung up without telling her for the first time that he loved her. He was going to call Shauna, but he didn't want to bother her at this time of day. He would call her in the morning and tell her he was taking the day off. Taking Friday off wouldn't be a problem, and he would go to work on Saturday to get things settled. Tate looked at his watch and saw that it was 6:15 a.m. It saddened him that he wouldn't see Shauna waiting for him that day, but he smiled at the thought of her watching him in the dark. He picked up the phone and called her. She was just finishing her coffee and about to stand at her post by the window when her cell phone rang. She smiled when she saw it was Tate and professionally answered, "Good morning, Mr. Morgan." "Shauna, I'm not coming in today. Put out all the fires and only call me if you can't handle something or if something is urgent." "Yes, sir. I'll take care of everything. Is there anything I can do for you?" "No, I'm going to clean myself up to prepare for the divorce." Regretfully, she said, "I'm sorry, sir. This must be hard on you." "Well, it's bloody sad is what it is. 5 years of marriage gone to waste. I still don't know everything, and I certainly don't know the reasons why, but I'll talk to her on Sunday. Maybe I'll get some answers. But more likely I'll just get bullshit." "Sir, would you like me to have Vivian James look into this?" Vivian was the company's contracted private investigator. "That's an excellent idea. Let's see if Viv can get some background information. She might want to start with that personal assistant and her husband that got Carly divorced. Besides, Bella will be staying at the Hyatt." "Will do, sir. I'll be here if you need me." "You're always here, thank you." "Viv, it's Shauna. Mr. Morgan has an assignment for you." "Hi, Shauna. I thought I'd hear from you. What does he want?" "Information about his wife and sister's relationship. See what you can find out about how long, how often, if there are others, etc." "Okay. Anything else?" "I'd like you to put a tail on her. I want to make sure she stays in line. She's staying at the Hyatt." "Okay, no problem." "Viv, obviously that's the first priority. Of course, I'll keep you updated, and you can relay it to Mr. Morgan." "Thank you." Saturday morning, Tate drove up to the office. He saw the lights on in the office, but didn't notice Shauna waiting for him. Then he realized it was Saturday, and she wouldn't be there. He entered the building and walked through the main foyer to the supervisor's office. As he opened the door to his outermost office where Shauna was sitting, he heard a noise from the closed office. He saw no indication that she was there, so he hesitated a bit before entering. When he opened the door, he saw a small child playing with the train cars. "Hello, who might you be?" "Hi, I'm Mickey. Mommy told me to wait here." "Oh yeah," he said, sitting down on the floor next to the boy. "Where did your mom go?" "To get juice and crackers." Tate chuckled and said, "That explains why I have apple juice in the fridge. What do you play?" "Trains. I have tracks at home, but look, these lines could be tracks." "Of course they can, Mickey." Shauna came over a minute later and almost cried when she saw Tate rolling the train and Mickey making a choo-choo sound. "Good morning, sir. Sorry about that. I only bring him in on Saturdays because I like to give Mom a break on the weekends. If it's a problem..." He interrupted her by saying, "It's not a problem. I haven't played trains in years." She smiled and handed Mickey the juice and cookies. "Mickey, let's get you out of Mr. Morgan's way. He has a job to do." "Okay, Mommy." "No, Shauna, he's fine. I'll just check my email and go through all the fires from yesterday. By the way, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I always come in for a couple hours on Saturday morning. It helps make Monday mornings a little calmer." "Oh, I was also wondering if you always drive to work at 5 a.m.? "Yes. I like to make sure everything is ready for you when you arrive. I don't want you to have to wait until you get there if you need me for something." "And your mom is watching Mickey?" She nodded affirmatively. "Isn't that hard on her?" "No, sir, she lives with us. She gets up early too, so it's not a problem." You know I appreciate everything you do for me, right? She smiled and replied, Yes, of course. Well, then I won't keep you. Don't worry about my train, buddy. We're all good. Thank you, sir. Tate finally got to see how the sausage was made. He hadn't realized how much time Shauna devoted to her work. He decided to be more careful and not think everything always went smoothly. Shauna put in a lot of effort and sacrifice to make everything go smoothly for him. Shauna? Yes, sir? Give your mom a bouquet of flowers from me, please. She'll love it, sir. I'll send her some of her favorites. Thank you. After an hour of answering emails, Tate asked, Mickey, what's your favorite breakfast? Pancakes. What kind? Chocolate chip? He smiled and nodded affirmatively. Tate walked over to Shauna and said, Wrap it up, Shauna. We're going out to eat pancakes. You don't have to do that? Why not? I'm hungry and my little train buddy likes chocolate chip pancakes. She smiled and said, He only gets them as a special treat. Okay, then we'll call it a morning of special treats. Let's go to Apple Villa. They have the best pancakes in the neighborhood. Okay, thanks. She did her best to temper her excitement. Not only did he get along great with her son, but he'd invited them over for breakfast. She'd never socialized with him outside of work. Even when he hosted employees at his house for parties, she treated it like work. She knew he was having problems with Bella and didn't want to get involved. She felt she had to stay within professional boundaries and not show him how she was attracted to him, not how she was in love with him. They took a booth in the restaurant, and he insisted that Mickey sit with him so they could draw on the mat together. He's not a good eater, sir. You might regret it, she said. And what 5-year-old isn't messy? We'll be fine. And Shauna, you can call me Tate. We're not on the job. Yes, sir. He frowned and said, Then no, sir, either. He got elbowed by Mickey and asked, What was that for? A bad word. Ah, I'll look it up. Shauna started laughing at them and felt happier than she had in years. As they were leaving the restaurant, Tate said, Thank you for joining me for breakfast. I needed the company. I needed to get Carly and Bella out of my head for a while. Thank you. I hope everything works out for you. I doubt it will. Divorce is a foregone conclusion. It's just a matter of time. I really can't stand cheaters. Her heart clenched at his words. He didn't know her history, which meant he didn't know how her marriage had ended. Hopefully, he'd never asked. She wouldn't want him to treat her any differently. Viv, what have you got? He's meeting with her today and would like as much information as possible, Shauna said early Sunday morning. I spoke to Carly's assistant who was in the video. She was hesitant to give any information, but she doesn't know much about Carly and Bella's relationship. She said she knows Bella, but it's nothing personal. What else? I really need more time to dig around, but right now I can't connect their past. It's too early to judge that, though. Good. Thank you, please continue. What's up with the tail? She hasn't left her room for the last couple days. She's only had one visitor, and that was Carly. Interesting. She left after half an hour, so it's unlikely anything was going on in there. Okay, thanks. Keep a tail on her. Shauna called Tate to give him the preliminary report. Shauna, you're not working on Sunday, are you? No, sir. I just wanted to tell you about what Vivian found. Okay. Anything bad? No, sir. She needs more time. She doesn't have anything to indicate a relationship until this week. Okay, I think that's good. Let her get on with it. Already done, sir. Thank you, Shauna. Bella's phone rang and her heart jumped when she saw it was Tate. Hi, Tate. Bella, come to the house at noon. I'll give you 30 minutes to explain yourself and convince me that we should stay married. She cried and said, Okay, honey. I love you so much. Leave it alone, Bella. If you loved me so much, we wouldn't be in this situation. He hung up the phone as she sobbed. Bella walked into her house at noon, and she hoped it would continue to be her home. She had no idea how their conversation would end. Tate was waiting for her in the kitchen. He was drinking a Miller Lite when she sat down at the table. It's your show, Bella. Tate, I do love you. You shouldn't doubt that. What we have is different from what we had with Carly. How long ago? The first time was 5 years ago. Jesus Christ. How long after we got married did it start? She went pale at that question, but knew she had to be honest to have a chance. Actually, it started on our wedding day. Damn, he exclaimed. Right before our wedding? Jesus, you're a whore. She cried and continued, I can't explain it. You bet I was. Do I even know you? Tate, I'm the same woman you fell in love with. There's just a small part of me you didn't know about. A small part? That's an awful lot of me. And you've put up with it all these years? Yeah, but only a couple times a year. And there have been others? This was Bella's final moment of truth. Would she dare tell him about Alan or not? She decided he didn't know about Alan, so she lied. There was no one else, I promise. There was only Carly. So why do we have to stay married? Tate, I love you, and until you found out, we were happy. We were going to have kids. Another thing you took away from me. No, we still can. We can go to counseling. We can be together forever. She exhaled. She had nothing more to say. Tate had listened to all her textbook and cheater's manual excuses and couldn't take it anymore. Well, that's just it. You've literally never been faithful to me. You cheated on me, and in the most horrible way possible. You even disrespected me on our wedding day. There is no way I can stay married to you. She sobbed and said, No. Yes, it is over between us. I'm filing for divorce and executing the prenup. You will receive nothing beyond what is required. I will leave you alone now. You can pack whatever you want. I won't change the locks until this is over. I trust you won't make me regret it. I'm so sorry, Tate. I love you so much. Yeah, that's what you said. He left her crying at the table. Tate sat in his mother's family room waiting for her to come down. They needed to talk about what to do about Carly. How's it going? How did it go? Asked Mrs. Morgan, entering the room. Terrible, Tate replied. Carly seduced her on my wedding day, and it's been going on ever since. On your wedding day? My God. Yes, needless to say, my marriage is over. I can't stay with her. I understand. I don't blame you. But we need to deal with the press. It's in the news every day, and our stock price is down 5%. I know. I'll get Carly to resign and announce it in the morning, before the market opens. That should solve our problem. Her shares are protected by our father's trust, so I won't try to take them away from her. I'm voting them by proxy anyway. That's good, but I think your impending divorce will affect us as well. It might. I'm going to announce that we've separated amicably, and it won't affect the company in any way. She won't get any of my stock, according to the prenuptial agreement. God, what a mess your sister has gotten us into. We need to get her into treatment immediately. There must be something wrong with her. Of course there is. She's a narcissist. She thinks she can do whatever she wants and collateral damage doesn't matter. I hope you realize that after today, I won't be communicating with her directly. I just can't get over what she did to me. I understand. Maybe someday our family will recover from this. At least I hope so. Tate wasn't overly optimistic. Tate called Carly but got her voicemail. Carly, tomorrow morning I will be issuing a press release announcing your resignation. I'm not going to buy back your shares, so you'll retain your ownership under the trust agreement. I guess I'll still be voting your shares. Don't make a big deal out of it. You've caused enough problems for the family, not to mention the company. Mom expects you to start seeing a therapist as well. Your addiction, narcissism, or whatever they call it, has done enough damage to your life. We are all suffering as a result. Carly listened to his words and cried. She didn't think she had a problem. Everyone else had a problem. Modern marriages shouldn't be constrained by the archaic restrictions of monogamy, she thought. She decided to call Tate. She was afraid he would yell at her and tell her what a slut she was. Screw him and his shitty moral ideals, she thought. She texted him. I'm resigning of my own accord. I don't want to cause any more problems for the company or my family. Shauna stood at the window, waiting for Tate to arrive. She thought about what a wonderful time they all had at breakfast. Tate had been so nice to Mickey, and Mickey had asked her if he would come over to her house to play steam trains with him again. She was torn between hoping that Tate would be free and she would have a chance at happiness with him, and hoping that he wouldn't be free because he would be sure to question her about the past. After that, she wouldn't stand a chance. She would never be able to lie to him. Pulling into the parking lot, Tate saw her looking out the window. He loved seeing her there every morning as she waited for him. He wondered if he could get into a relationship with his beautiful assistant right after the divorce. Do we have a fraternization policy? He thought. Then he thought, why don't I know the answer to that question? He realized it was because he relied on Shauna for information. While he was dealing with business matters, HR was dealing with politics. Shauna could tell him about politics when he needed to. When he entered Shauna's outer office, he found her looking at him as she did every day. A bright smile appeared on her face, and she said in her usual manner, "Good morning, Mr. Morgan." "Hi, Shauna." He watched her eyes roam over his body and decided to stop and playfully call out to her. "Did I spill something?" "Huh? No, I just wanted to make sure you didn't spill so I could let you know if you did." She thought, oh my God, he caught me checking on him and I'm babbling like an idiot. He laughed and said, "What would I do without you?" And then left for his office. That was fun, he thought. She was clearly excited, and he figured he would keep it up. He was pleased that a woman was interested in him, and he wondered how it was that he hadn't noticed her interest before. It didn't matter, though. He was completely devoted to Bella and would never think of leaving her. Tate called his attorney and asked him to prepare the divorce. He asked him to do him a favor and speed up the process if possible. He allowed himself to think about the divorce one last time. He felt what he hoped would be the last straw of sadness for his once happy marriage. Then he put the thought out of his mind. There was work to be done. A company to protect. Thousands of people were counting on him. "Shauna, would you come in here, please?" he called out. "Yes, sir," she replied, running in with her iPad. "Shauna, I need to prepare a press release about my sister's resignation. Then I need Paul Daniels to get here immediately so I can officially promote him to the position he was already fulfilling in her absence." She was stunned for a moment, then asked, "Should I schedule a press conference or just a press release?" "Just the press release. Defer any questions about it to the media relations department. Paul can earn his new paycheck." "Just so you know, I'm filing for divorce." He saw she didn't look up from her clipboard, but smiled briefly. "At the end of the week, Bella and I will be issuing a joint release announcing our consensual divorce. We need to make sure my divorce doesn't affect the stock price. I won't be answering questions, so if any members of the press call, send them to Paul." He watched her jot down notes on her tablet and asked, "Any questions?" "No, sir." "Good. Go ahead." She got up to leave and he stopped her. "Shauna, what is the fraternity policy at the company?" She threw him a curious look and replied, "There are two. For non-executive level employees, managers can't have relationships with direct reports. For executive level employees, they cannot have relationships with board members. Of course, there are provisions that allow employees to be transferred from one department to another under certain circumstances and exceptions to the HR rules." He smiled and said, "Thank you, Shauna." She nodded and walked away. What was that? She wondered. Maybe he had his eye on someone in the company? The week passed without much happening. The announcements of her sister's resignation and his divorce had little effect on the stock price. By Friday, Bella had signed the divorce papers, and his lawyer assured him that there was no need to rush, as the prenup was securely drawn up. To keep Bella from fighting back, Tate sweetened her pot by buying her an apartment. On Saturday, Tate ran on the treadmill, remembering the previous weekend breakfast with Shauna and Mickey. He decided to take a chance and headed to the office, hoping to catch them there. He wanted to make it look like it was another chance meeting, not him asking them out on a date. As he pulled into the parking lot, he had his doubts. Is it too soon to meet Shauna in person? He decided to take things slow and act casual. Starting with innocent breakfasts and lunches would be the perfect way to move into a more intimate relationship. Good morning, Shauna. She stood with her back to him and jumped in surprise. Mr. Morgan, you startled me, I'm sorry. Good morning, sir. Let me make you some coffee. Only if you will, I won't be here long. Okay. She didn't have any coffee, but she went to make him a pot anyway. Hey, kid, he turned to Mickey, who was playing with Matchbox cars that afternoon. Hi, Mr. Tate. Do you want to play cars? Sure, I can play cars. Do you know what kind they are? Yes. This is a Porsche. This is a race car. This is a Jaguar. And this is a Ford. Mommy has a Ford. Yeah? Uh-huh. Have you ever seen a real Jaguar? He asked, using the childish pronunciation. No. Let's go to the window. He took the boy in his arms and brought him to the window. Look down. See that silver car? That's my Jaguar. Can I go for a ride? Well, that's up to your mom. Tell you what, though. Why don't we go eat pancakes again and take my car? What do you think about that? Can I have whipped cream this time? Tate, laughing, replied, That's up to your mom. Shauna was in the kitchen waiting for coffee. She wondered why Tate was in the office that day. He rarely works weekends and never works 2 days in a row. She figured that since he was getting a divorce, he could work Saturdays without worrying about his wife being displeased. She didn't expect him to not work at all, and she didn't realize that he didn't even bother to log on to his computer. She walked into his office and saw him playing typewriters with her son. I have your coffee, Mr. Morgan. Thank you. You don't need to play with him, sir. He's fine. Don't let him distract you from your work. No way. Miss a chance to play cars? No way. By the way, would you and Stinky like to go out for pancakes again? I'm not Stinky, Mickey protested. No, Mr. Morgan, you don't have to do that. You're right. I want to. Then you do? Of course. That would be great. Great. Let me know when you're ready. I won't distract Stinky. Give me 10 minutes and I'll be ready. Oh, if it's that quick, Mickey wanted to ride in my car. You won't mind if I move his booster seat to the back seat. He wanted to ride in your car? Yeah, he has a little Zhigulinok here, so I showed him my real one. She laughed at his use of boyish language, then said, Good. I'll meet you downstairs then. Come on, Stinker. Let's check out my car. So began a string of weeks in which he pretended to work on Saturdays and took them to breakfast. They never talked about anything personal except small talk. Tate never asked about her past or Mickey's father, and she never offered that information. His divorce became final after 60 days, and the public quieted down. Alan Brown won the nomination, and there were high hopes for him to defeat the brash businessman from Texas, who was the Republican nominee. Carly went to therapy, and their mother regularly updated Tate on her condition. He refused to have anything to do with her, but was glad she was getting help and getting better for his mother's sake. Tate decided that he was finally free of the ghost of his marriage and was going to take his relationship with Shauna to the next level. He noticed that she no longer looked so sad when he pulled into the parking lot. He hoped that meant she was happier, and he hoped that meant he was a part of it. On a dark September morning, he pulled up to the office and didn't see Shauna. When he walked in, there was no one at her desk. He called her every 10 minutes, but got voicemail and no answer to her messages. He was getting worried when a woman knocked on the door. Good morning. I'm Jen. Shauna collapsed yesterday and is in the hospital. She's been left for observation. She has a serious concussion. I'll be here within the week. He jumped up and grabbed his keys. Cancel all my appointments for today. What hospital is she in? St. Alexander's Hospital. She's in room 1102. Okay. Send her 24 white roses and one of those big bouquets wishing her a speedy recovery. Use my card. He ran out the door and rushed to the hospital. He rushed to room 1102 in a frenzy and saw that she was asleep. There was still an hour to go before visiting time, but no one had seen him enter. When he entered the dark room, he saw a couch by the window and a recliner chair next to the bed. He sat down in the chair and took her hand. With his free hand, he checked his email and read the news, and with his right hand, he kept his left hand on hers. Half an hour later, a nurse came in and smiled at him. "Our secret, just don't wake her up," she said. He nodded his thanks. As soon as visiting hours opened, an elderly woman entered the room and was startled to see him holding her hand. She smiled at him and asked, "Mr. Morgan, I presume?" "Yes, ma'am." "Are you her mother?" "Yes. Thank you for the beautiful flowers you sent me." "It's my pleasure. Thank you for helping her with Mickey so she can work crazy hours." "You're here pretty early, aren't you?" "I came as soon as I found out. I'm thinking of firing whoever didn't call me as soon as they found out she was hurt." "Oh, don't blame them. I called the main line and left a message. I didn't get a chance to call you directly and she was out." "Good. How is she?" "I think she's going to be okay. She was having bouts of vertigo, so they wanted to keep her in and monitor her." "What happened?" "The handrail on the steps of the house broke. She lost her balance and fell to the sidewalk." He let go of Shauna's hand and called his service manager. "Frank, this is Tate Morgan. I need you to get my assistant Shauna's address from the temp and get a man to her house. Her stair railing broke and she's been admitted to the hospital." "I'll send Mike over there right away. We'll get it done." "Thanks, Frank." He hung up, and her mother smiled as he took Shauna's hand again. "So, Mr. Morgan, you spend a lot of Saturdays with my daughter and grandson." "Yes, we've gotten into the habit of going out for breakfast after work on Saturdays." "When are you going to ask her out on a real date?" Before an embarrassed Tate could answer, Shauna moaned, "Mom, leave him alone." Tate stood up and said, "How are you feeling? Do you need water? Painkiller?" She smiled and opened her eyes. Squeezing his hand in thanks, she said, "Don't fuss. I'm fine." At that moment, a nurse walked in with a delivery of flowers. Well, someone is loved. What beautiful roses. When Shauna read the card, he said, "From the company." "Company, huh? Well, they're beautiful, thank you." She handed him the card, which read, "A speedy recovery. Love, Tate." He frowned and wished Jen wasn't a temp, and he could fire her. Shauna looked at him with a smile and said, "I know that look. Don't you dare fire them?" "Okay, but it's the feelings that matter, right?" "Of course." Later that day, her mother left, but Tate was still there. She decided to melt the ice and asked, "Sir, why are you still here with me? Not that I mind, but you have a business to run." "There is nothing more important to me right now than you. There's no place I'd rather be." "That's nice, thank you." "Funny what your mom said earlier. I was actually going to take you out to dinner when I got to work tonight." "Really?" "Yeah, seeing you out the window every morning is one of the best parts of my day, and what we do on Saturdays is awesome. I thought it would be even better if I took it up a notch." "I didn't realize you were noticing how I was doing it." "Uh-huh. I know it's just so you know when to pour my coffee, but I can see you so you don't notice my stare. You used to look so sad. Like this was your quiet time when you were alone with your thoughts." "I don't look sad anymore?" "Not for a couple months now." "I'm thinking about happier things now, but this isn't the time for that kind of talk." "So that's a yes about dinner?" "Yes." "Love Tate, Jen?" He said it before she could even say good morning. "Am I mistaken, Mr. Morgan? When you said white roses, I assumed that's what you wanted." "Why?" "White roses symbolize eternal love." "Wow, I didn't realize that," he said, shaking his head. "Don't worry about it. She loved them." Tate and Shauna sat in the lounge of his favorite restaurant, waiting for their table. They were sipping a glass of white wine and enjoying each other's company when Tate said, "Can I ask about Mickey's father? You never mention him, and he doesn't seem to be in the picture?" She had been dreading this moment and took a sip before answering, "No, he was never in the picture. Mickey never met him." "Oh, I'm sorry, a deadbeat dad?" "Not really. Why don't we save this conversation for after dinner, okay? Sure, I didn't want to hit a nerve. That's all right. We'll have to talk about it eventually. It'll probably happen today. He pulled into her driveway and turned off the car. He turned to her and said, I had a great time tonight. Me too. Thanks for dinner. Would you like to come over for a drink and a story? He realized she was uncomfortable and offered her a way out. Look, we don't have to. If you're not ready to talk about it, we can put it off until later. No, let's deal with it. Honestly, you need to know, and I don't want to waste your time if you don't want to keep seeing me. Wow, that bad? Good. Let's talk. They sat in her living room, together on the couch with a glass of wine. Tate, I'm going to tell you everything. I could lie, but I'm determined never to lie to you. Okay, he said. 6 years ago, I was married to a good man. That marriage fell apart indirectly because of my pregnancy with Mickey. When I was in college, I was a party girl. I drank, smoked pot, did cocaine, took exes, and slept around. I met Dale, my ex-husband, at a graduation party and fell head over heels in love with him. He was as straightforward as a man can be. Religious, didn't drink much, hated drugs, and was pretty much my opposite. I cleaned myself up and started dating him. We were married a year later. I was so in love it hurt. One day after 6 months of marriage, we went dancing. I was drunk, and while I was in the restroom, a few girls were doing lines. They asked if I wanted a drink, and I, being drunk, agreed. When I got back to our table, I had a few crystals on the edge of my nostril, and Dale noticed it. He got mad, and we got into an argument. It got to the point where he walked out and left me there. I was so mad at him that I stayed and continued to party. I ended up going home with some guy I picked up there. When I woke up the next day in a strange house, I panicked. I called a cab and drove home to face the music, crying the whole way. I walked into the house, and when Dale saw me, he realized what I had done and left me. I cried for hours after he left. Eventually, he came back and I told him about my past. We went to counseling and everything was going well until I lost my period. When the doctor determined our pregnancy date, Dale did the math and wanted to do a DNA test. We did the prenatal test, and my worst fear came true. Mickey was not Dale's baby. Dale tried very hard, but couldn't bear to be reminded of my cheating every day. The divorce was final, 2 days before Mickey was born. I didn't pay attention to where I was taken home from, and I didn't remember the guy's name, so Mickey had to suffer without a father. He's dealing with it okay, but now it's getting harder for him to socialize with the kids at school who have fathers, but he doesn't push them too hard. Tate held her hand as she told her story and finally spoke. I see. So you think that because I couldn't forgive my wife for cheating on me, I wouldn't want to continue a relationship with you? Just then they heard a voice. Mommy? Mr. Tate? I can't sleep. She stood up and took Mickey in her arms. Tate? You take care of your son. I'm going to go now. Good night, Mickey. Good night, Shauna, he said as he left. She carried Mickey to bed, hugged and kissed him, and cried herself to sleep. Tate took what she said to him hard and hardly slept a wink. When he crawled out of bed at 7 in the morning, he was upset but not angry. He couldn't reconcile his hatred for the cheater with his love for her. He was sure he really did love her. He remembered it was Saturday and thought about missing breakfast with Shauna and Mickey. He loved the boy too, and it pained him to think that the kid would be upset if he didn't get pancakes and a ride on the Jag. Tate had even bought a booster seat for his car. He never hid from problems, so he got dressed and headed to the office. He had to sort out his feelings and make an effort. He felt she was worth it. When he entered the office, she wasn't at her desk. He opened his office door and saw a puddle of apple juice. What happened here? He asked Mickey. Dropped it. Tastes better if it goes in your mouth, buddy. Mom went to get paper towels. She says you'll be angry, but you look happy. It's always good to see you, Stinky. I'm not stinky. Well, I'm not angry. Are we going to have pancakes today? Mom said we can't walk anymore. Oh, she's wrong. I need pancakes. Me too. And lots of whipped cream. Tate. He looked up and smiled. Mickey said we can't go out for breakfast anymore. So how am I going to eat pancakes, Shauna? When you left last night, I thought you didn't want to see me anymore. He stood up and said, Mickey, we'll be right back. He took her hand and pulled her with him to the outer office. Look, I was in shock last night. Am I afraid you look like my wife? No. Am I afraid you're some kind of drug-addicted whore? No. Am I afraid that if you cheated once, you'll cheat forever? I don't know. Tate, I would never hurt you. I know you wouldn't on purpose. I'm sure Dale would have said the same thing before that night. She started to cry, and he put his arms around her. Look, I have trust issues, but I love you and I'm willing to overcome them with you. She pulled away. Wait, do you really love me? Smiling, he replied, Yes, I do. I love you too, she said, crying into his shoulder. Can we eat pancakes now? Came a voice from behind them. As soon as Mommy's ready, baby. He kissed her hand and said, I'll clean up the apple juice. You finish running the company without me, and we can go. Having had enough pancakes, Mickey said, Mr. Tate, do you know how to catch? Of course I do. And do you know how to catch? Yes, but when I play catch with my mom, she keeps dropping it. Tate laughed at the thought of her dropping the ball every time. Well, Mom probably doesn't know how. Maybe we'll teach her. Why don't you play ball with me? Then Mommy won't have to learn. A tear rolled down her cheek. Tate looked up at her and smiled his savory smile. I'll play with you, but I need to get a mitt. You don't catch soccer balls with a mitt, Mickey said, laughing. No, I can catch a soccer ball without a mitt. I can throw it far. Mommy says I can be a soccer player when I grow up. Of course I can, buddy. What's your favorite team? The Bears. Really? Your mom didn't tell me that. Do you want to go to a game with me? I have season tickets. Yeah. Can we watch them play the Packers? Only if Mom says it's okay. They both looked at a smiling Shauna, who still had wet eyes. She said, Mr. Tate can take you anywhere he wants, Mickey. Tate reached out and took a piece of her bacon and broke it in half. He held out half to Mickey and said, Mickey, can we play ball this afternoon? I want to see your railroad tracks too. The boy nodded happily, eating the bacon. Shauna didn't react in any way. She silently prayed that Tate wouldn't break their hearts. That evening, Shauna and Tate went out to dinner, and instead of going back to her house, Tate took her to his. Sitting on the couch and sipping on a rum and coke, Tate said, Shauna, we're in a difficult situation, and we have to be very careful. Mickey and I are bonded together, and if anything happens between us, he could get hurt. I know. We've made a fresh start. We were a quasi-family before we were a couple. Look, we've known each other in a working relationship for a few years now. I've seen you almost every day in that time, so I'm quite comfortable with you as a person. We've been dating for a couple months now if you count our Saturday breakfasts. When I said I love you, I meant it. Will we end up getting married? I don't know. But I'll tell you this. I'm a one-woman man, and you're the only one I want. Tate, you can forget my past. I promise I'm not that girl anymore. No, I can't forget it, but I don't have to worry about it. If I let it burden my thoughts, we'll never have peace. I want to try and I want to trust you. You have never failed me before, and I hope you never will. It happened that they got down to it. Next chapter. He pulled up in her driveway and she asked, Tate, will you sleep with me tonight? I thought we already did that. She playfully clapped him on the shoulder and replied, No, asshole, I meant real sleep. It's been so long since I've slept with anyone. I wish I had. What's your mom going to say? Who cares? It's my house, but knowing her, will she praise me in the morning? A year passed, and they became even better to each other. They had a simple wedding with family and friends, and Tate adopted Mickey. Shauna is pregnant with twins, and they are more in love with each other than ever. Every time he pulls into the parking lot at work, he sees Jen watching him from the window. Shauna has trained her well to replace her, but Tate has never felt the same way about Jen as he does about Shauna when he sees her out the window. Bella kept trying to make up with Tate, but eventually stopped when the wedding was announced. She eventually remarried and gave birth to a son. Tate found out about the three of them with Carly and Alan from his investigator, but kept quiet about it to spare his mother from having to learn even more about Carly's sordid life. Carly, against the advice of Tate and her attorney, agreed to pay a large sum of money to Bill Frayne. He was the husband of one of Carly's pet peeves. He eventually authored the story that forced President Alan Brown to resign in disgrace over the scandal. Once the uproar subsided, Alan and Carly got back together. Tate was surprised by this, but Carly always said that they really loved each other, and the whole open marriage shenanigans were fine with them. Tate still had very little contact with them. The end. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, so subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.